Gentlemen, welcome back to the Tiege Hanley Starting a Business, Building a Brand vlog. This one, big number 365. So, do you want to go see all my dirt? What's going on? You doing well? All right, so here's the plan for today. Take you by my house. More problems, of course. We're not, God. Once we get all of the footings and the foundation and the concrete work done, like, we'll be good. We'll be cooking and we'll be framing and we'll be like kicking ass and like moving forward. But it's getting to that point because God, it just seems like every day there's a new problem. Yesterday they came out, did more tests for more helical piers. We're trying to put the support like footer before we actually put the slab on, and lo and behold, it's not gonna work because you know, there's too much trash underneath that we didn't know about 9 feet down. So the solution now is to actually excavate and dig out along the line where they're going to be putting that footer, and then filling it with dirt, and then hopefully putting in some helical. To say I'm frustrated would probably be a slight understatement at this point, but there's no stopping now. As my builder Joel says, we're pregnant, so you got to just keep going. But what we've been doing, because we're getting ready to pour like the final like concrete and foundation stuff, and so in order to basically seal up where the pool is going to be, we need to basically bring in enough dirt to be able to backfill and compact that area. Because of the way that the house is kind of laid out and situated, it would be very difficult to bring in a lot of dirt after the fact. And so for the past like few days, we've been bringing in truckload after truckload after truckload after truckload after truckload of dirt. And so I've got a lot of dirt. Here's the plan. I'm going to show you the house, and then we're going to go back to the office. Oh my God, there's more. 500 loads. That's how many loads of dirt I have brought in so far, and we probably are gonna need another, like, I don't know, probably like 40 allegedly, but check it out. Can you see my big mound? It doesn't look as impressive here, but we're gonna go up to it. So here's what we've recently done in terms of concrete work. All right, this is the front of the house. That area right there is going to be my porch. That's where last time when I took you here, we were digging out and we saw Joel, and we filled that hole with like 100 tons of gravel. That was like $12,000. That's where that is, underneath there. So we poured the wall. We also have waterproofed the front of it. That's where you see that stuff that looks like plywood. All this dirt is basically being like staged right here on the side of the property, so that when we close up the wall, they're going to be able to actually take this dirt and fill up where the pool area is actually going to be. When they get finished doing all the dirt, what they're going to start doing is actually backfilling along the front of the house with all of the dirt that I'm standing on. So as you can see, this is kind of like the inside of the house. We're starting to get ready to try and do those grade beams, but we're going to have to trench out in order to be able to basically do the helical piers once again. And so getting that all prepped and ready, should be starting on that probably next week. But yeah, all of this dirt is kind of just like sitting here, and it's all like staged on the one side of the house, because what's going to happen is they're going to try to actually close up that wall over there in the next pour. And then at that point, we're kind of like landlocked back here. And so we need to bring all of this dirt in order to fill all of that area down here. All the area down here, basically inside of this big like area. And that's gonna be where the pool is. And so it's just a lot of dirt, and it's a lot of time, it's a lot of money, and oh my goodness. This project is turning into it's frustrating. Now what I'm gonna do is go back to the office and actually answer some of your amazing business questions. Speaking of business questions, down below, guys, if you have a business question, it doesn't matter about what. Basically, if you've got it, start it with business question and ask. Each week we try to get to a few of them. This week we've got a few amazing ones. The first one is from Joey Jordan, Pure Water Sales. What's up, brother? Hope you're doing well. He says, lately I'm seeing more and more celebrities saying, I live as a trust, not as an individual. Grant Cardone, Brad Lay, and Andrew Tater, 3 I've seen last week say that, basically saying that they don't own anything. Their company and their trust owns it all. What are your thoughts on that? So I think it's all about taxes, right? And this is something that I recently set up for myself. I set up a trust. I used to have a will, right? And so let me just get this out of the way. If you are somebody, anybody, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're Grant Cardone or you're me or you're, whoever, you. It is a great idea, not a great idea. It's critical that you do set up a will, all right? Wills are basically letting people, your friends, your family members know if something happens to you, what your wishes are, where you want things to go, what you want to happen with your assets. Even if you don't have a lot of assets, you've got something, and it's the last gift that you can give to the people you love, because during a time of your death, if something happens to you, God forbid, it's already going to be a hard emotional time. Not knowing what you would have wanted is something that makes it even more challenging. And so a few years ago, I set up a will, and it honestly was really hard for me to do. It was very emotional for me, thinking through that. Now, this was probably, probably 4 or 5 years ago when I set up my first will. And it cost me a little bit of money, but the cool thing is that there are, platforms online like LegalZoom, things like that, where there are easier, less expensive ways to set it up. I think my first will cost me, like $800. They're attorneys that specialize exclusively in wills. And in there, I got to specify, I want this percentage of my assets to go to my wife. I want this percentage of my assets to go to my mom, my dad. And, I laid it out basically as a percentage of my assets. But since then, I realized that if you do die and you don't have a trust, everything goes through what is called probate. Basically, when you die, there's something called probate. It's a process that delays everything because they've got to basically do all the due diligence and figure everything out. So what I recently did was realize that, I've got a lot more assets now. I've got businesses that need to continue to thrive and could thrive. I've got real estate assets. I've got all these different things. And what happens is if you have them or hold them, my attorney explained it like this. Think of it as like a basket, and you're going to place certain assets that you own in this basket. All right. And then this basket gets excluded from the probate process. And so if the assets are in this basket or the trust, they go directly to where they need to go and don't need to go through the probate process. And so there are a lot of legalities around like what you can and what you can't put in the trust. I placed some assets in a trust because I don't want to have to go through that process, and I want my wife or my loved ones or my family to have access to the things that I want them to have access to like right away, as opposed to going through a 3-month or 6-month process. And so, the reason why a lot of these guys are doing it, like I said, it's all about taxes. And I don't know 100%. I don't know. I may be saying and speaking out of turn, but I think when you're an individual and you die and you just pass along assets, I think they are taxed at a specific rate, but if you have them in a trust, they're taxed a little bit differently. I don't 100% know, so don't hold me to that. But there are definite tax advantages to setting up a trust as well. And so it's something where, people with high net worths that have a lot of assets, they set up trusts to basically, it's kind of like, think of it a little bit more as like an LLC, right? When you start a business, you can do it as a sole proprietor or you can do it as an LLC. An LLC protects and puts an umbrella over you for certain things, right? And so if you get sued, it's going to protect you, the person, a little bit better as if you were an LLC or a sole proprietor and you got sued. There's so much that goes into this. Unfortunately, I don't remember. It's been about a year since I started the process. Now, one thing I will tell you is my attorney that I used in order to set up the trust, she also had to do a lot of things in terms of my businesses and sort of situate things so that when I die or if I die, my assets and the ownership to those businesses goes immediately to these people. These people also have access to the bank accounts and things of that nature, because that's one of the things. If you die and there isn't a will or it has to go through probate, your bank accounts can get tied up. And so trying to operate a business for 3 months or 6 months without the access to the account would be very difficult. And so I specified, okay, if I die, this business, I want my wife to take over. I want to maintain these, people, these key people. I thought through a lot of stuff because, if I wasn't here, I want my family, my loved ones, my employees to be able to continue to thrive and not affect their lifestyle And I also want my businesses to kind of live on, if they can, without me, and continue to provide income and residual money for my family, my loved ones. But I also, something else I put in my trust, a percentage of the assets that I hold in trust is going to a foundation that I set up. I don't know, did I tell you about the foundation? So back in May, I set up something called the Aaron and Tracy Marino Opportunity Endowment. That's the technical name of the fund. And basically, the whole idea was the school system and the kids in my area. I live in kind of like the rich bubble, but outside of where I currently live, Marietta is not like a great area for kids. There's a lot of poor people and a lot of poor kids. And there's a lot, I think it's like 80% of the kids that go to public school are on some type of government assistance and get like meals paid for. And so there's a huge need in my area for, extra money. And so there's basically something called the Marietta School Foundation. It's the Alumni Association that basically helps where they can, because a lot of the money that your school system gets has to be allocated for specific things. But there are a lot of things that come up that the school needs money for that basically you can't use government funds for or taxpayer dollars. And so my thinking was, you know what? I want to basically set up something where I can help kids. I grew up poor and I could have used some of these programs that they're doing. And so what I did was set up an annual thing where I give them a little bit of money, and then every year I give them more money as long as I can. It can stop at any point. The idea is that I started this endowment to help kids, that are in need. And the whole idea is that it's not specified for a specific thing. It's basically open to the Chief Impact Officer, Kim. She can basically choose to allocate these funds any way they want. And they were really needing like some kind of, it's almost like a slush fund, but it has to be used. I had to specify like, okay, it has to be used to help kids in these specific like areas. And they actually used, I got contacted, they used my money, some of the money, the first endowment or the first amount of money that I gave. There were some kids, 2 kids whose houses burnt down. And so basically they used some of my money in order to get them housing so that they could continue to, their family housing, so that they could continue to like go to school. And the whole idea is to get these kids to graduate and to take away any roadblock that we possibly can in order to help them. Why I get choked up at stuff like this, I don't know. Anyway, so it was something that I set up, and I love my area, I love my community, and it was just an opportunity for me to kind of like give back in a small way. But when I croak, I'm going to give back in a big way, because I also allocated a percentage of my assets to my foundation and endowment. And one of the other things that got me thinking about this was when I was setting up my trust, my attorney was like, are there any like charities or anything that you are passionate about? And I was sitting there and I was thinking, I'm like, not like, I like pets, but I don't know, like, and so this got me thinking, I'm like, you know what, maybe it's an opportunity for me to set something up, and that will be a way for me to be sure that when I die, a percentage of my assets will go to something that I am incredibly passionate about. And yeah, so that's kind of what happened. But a will is a must for anyone. Now, a trust is something that you just need to do your more research, and as your assets grow, there is a reason why a lot of these super successful people are setting it up, and I'm sure that it has to do with taxes, and so just do your research and figure it out. But yeah, a trust, I get it. I'm not super educated, or I should say I don't remember all of the ins and outs and nuances, but I know that I set it up for myself because I needed to feel comfortable that my assets weren't going to go to probate and that they could be distributed to the people I want them distributed to when I want them to, which is when I die. The next business question comes from our friend, where is it? Nike 44444. Do you think you'll ever create the Tiege Hanley version of a beard kit, like having a beard balm, beard growth oil, wash, etc.? We actually, I think, started developing that, and I think we pulled back and really started focusing on the products that we know are going to be like home runs. You know, for Tiege Hanley, it's kind of like one of those auxiliary products. We really want to double down and focus on skincare. There's a lot of opportunity there. And with beard oil and beard kits and stuff like that, there's so much competition that it's not really high on our priority list, but never say never. That is something that I have learned. The next business question comes from our friend. Woo, this is a long one. Actually, I'm going to get to that one in a second. Anders Hukus, sorry for butchering that name, brother, says, Would you ever consider selling the Stubble Buddy concept to Manscaped or Brio or somebody? I guess, but they could just do their own. And so it'd be probably easier just for them to do that and label it like their product and because like I didn't develop anything like super like unique or special or trademarked or patented. It's something that pretty much anybody could do. So probably not, but if they want it, call me. It's yours. I'll sell it. Good price. Anyway, the next business question and the last one we're going to get to is from King RBM. He says, thanks for the lowdown on the Stubble Buddy. How do you get more or manage your energy, mental and physical, to run all your businesses and videos during the week? I'm not asking you about time management, but more energy. For example, I work 5 to 6 days a week full time. I start at 6 a.m., get home around 3. During the weeknights, I always plan to get this done, to-do list, struggle, even get one done. I do, of course, dishes cooked, blah, 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 blah. So the question is, how do I maintain my energy level? Perfect time. How do I get my energy? I don't know where my energy comes from. And this is like an interesting thing. There are things that I do that I feel facilitate having a high energy level. All right. Number one, I do make sleep a priority. All right. One of the things that you're going to notice, and our friend said that he only sleeps about 6 hours a day. I don't think that's enough. But the problem is that if you're going to do or pack everything into your day that you're going to pack into it, a lot of times sleep is the one thing that kind of gets, I don't know, like pushed aside a little bit. But my question to you is, are you maximizing and managing your time well enough? Or could you maybe do something a little bit different in order to really get a little bit more sleep? I would say 7 hours minimum is probably what I would shoot for. If that's not a possibility, that's not a possibility, and I get it. But sleep for me is definitely a priority. The second thing I do every single day is exercise. I exercise a lot, right? I exercise in the morning. I also exercise typically another time later in the day. Exercise for me is also something that I am very, very, very selfish with. I know if I'm not doing that, I don't feel as good and my mind is not where it needs to be. The third thing that I do is I eat healthy, right? I eat very healthy. I don't eat shit food. I prepare all of my meals, and so I am very disciplined that way. And what I have found for me is that when I eat shitty food, I don't feel as good, I don't feel as energetic, and I'm not as like motivated as I am when I eat clean. And so clean eating is something else that I feel that I do that is that it helps my energy level. I also am really passionate about what I do, you know, and that's something else. I know that when there have been times when I've not been excited about what I'm doing or the challenges that I'm facing. And so for me, those times, I find that my energy level is a little bit lower. But knowing and getting up every day, it's not that I'm like getting up out of bed every day and being like, yeah, today's the best day ever. Like, it's not like that. But I know that I've got challenges to figure out. And for me, I need challenges. I need things that I'm working on. I need things that I'm figuring out. And so for me, when I'm figuring things out, I am energized. The other thing, I love making videos. It gets me excited. It gets me up in the day, and I love doing this. I think really for me, in terms of energy level, it's about building a life around sort of maximizing my body and my mind, and with that comes energy. Also, caffeine. I drink a few cups of coffee a day, but you know, I'm tired at the end of the day. I mean, 9 o'clock comes, I'm winding down. 10 o'clock, I'm in bed, and so it's non-negotiable. There are certain things in my life that are non-negotiable. I don't eat out during the day or the week. I eat out like once a week on the weekends. I don't drink other than the weekends. I'll have some wine. But living a clean lifestyle does facilitate you having more energy. And so I don't know if you're doing all of that. I would assume you're doing some of it, probably not all of it, but I would start there and then, you know, see how you feel. But yeah, that's my answer, and then I'm sticking to it. Gentlemen, that is where I am going to wrap things up. If you have a business question, down below, start it with business question. If you have any questions about trusts or estate planning, I'm not your guy, obviously, but I did my best to tell you a little bit of something about something I'm dealing with. Gentlemen, that is where we're going to wrap things up. As always, we love you more than what? Our double monk strap shoes. Gentlemen, you rock.